Hello, this is Micah Dodson with Thrive Church Planting, and I'm here with my friend Rob.
Yeah, I'm part of Salem Alliance Church, and so here I get to be the executive director of a college that we started preparing people for ministry called Reach Training Institute, and I'm also the pastor of multiplication for Salem Alliance Church.
Tell us a little bit more about what's happening with Salem Alliance. I know there's some really cool new innovations that have been taking place.
Sure. During the COVID season, obviously everyone's having to adjust and think in many ways like a startup. And so for our church, being a larger church, it's just created some issues of like, how do we do this? We're not going to be able to gather as a large group for quite a while, just with the current restrictions. As we began to meet as leaders and pray, one of the things that we've been really trying to do is listen to God. So we heard clearly from God, just a bunch of different people had dreams, visions, things from God, that we were to just start doing smaller groups, small house churches. And so right before Pentecost started, we decided we're going to go for it. And we decided to, during the Pentecost message, just talk about how we would gather in a big building, but that's not the purpose. When Pentecost, it threw everything upside down, and we now take the fire of God out wherever we go. We bring God's peace. So we actually just commissioned everybody via live stream. We commission you to start a house church, to bring the presence of God wherever you step foot, and to just gather neighbors, gather people from your street, your apartment complex, start a house church, and let that be what this season brings.
What has the response been like?
It's been bigger than I think we expected, that we have 60 of these things going at this point. It's a movement, so it's hard to actually keep track of, and we're trying not to necessarily create boundaries and restrictions and stuff on it. We're trying to see where God takes it. But I think it's giving people a chance during this season to gather together. We're a larger church, and I wouldn't call us an attractional church. We do have a lot of discipleship going on. But in many ways, people come to the corporate gathering, they find community, then they find discipleship. And this is like, find that discipleship piece. You'll find your community there. Whether or not you join the corporate gathering down the road, doesn't matter, as long as you're growing in Christ.
Tell me more about like what you're excited about, and then also what are the challenges that you're facing?
Yeah, I'm excited about the leadership development. I'm excited about the decentralization. I think that in many ways, the corporate gathering, it's a place where we can all come and get filled to go do what we're meant to do, rather than the end all. And so I think that's reminding us as a larger church, it's not about what happens just on Sunday morning. It's us bringing peace wherever we step. That's our goal. And so I'm excited about that. I'm excited because people are inviting their neighbors who wouldn't come to our church, but who will come into that setting. For me personally, that's been a great thing. Challenges are, there's a lot of people that don't want to start a house church, who don't want to be commissioned as a pastor of a house church. Mm-hmm. And so they're sitting and saying, can I join one? So I'm getting lots of emails, lots of calls, like, is there a house church in my area? And my response to them is that's not how this works. These are not open groups. Yeah. I encourage you to start one. That's been a challenge. People have trouble understanding that this is not a service for me. This is an opportunity for you to serve.
Yeah, totally. And that's one of the things, because this is something that's happening across the country and really around the world right now. And one of the tenets that I'm hearing that's really essential, the theology of the priesthood of every believer. And that's the idea that every Jesus follower could be the pastor of a house church. They need some equipping, they need some training like you guys are doing. But it's not something to come to and consume. It's something much more to like send them out in that regard.
And we borrowed a term from the Bible Project in Portland. Those guys, they call it mobile temples.
Yeah.
And so we've been actually making that common language for us. We're calling our house church pastors, they're mobile temples. And we're calling them pastors. We're commissioning them in that way.
So what would you say, just as an encouragement, maybe some other pastors or church planters are listening to this, how would you like to encourage them today?
I would say that just remind your church that the gathering on a Sunday is not the end all. And to see what's happening in the world right now with COVID as an opportunity more than a threat to freedom. It's an opportunity for us to rethink and reimagine and become, I believe, what the church is supposed to be.
Awesome. I love it. Thanks so much, Rob. Thanks for joining us today. Again, this is Micah with Thrive Church Planting. If you'd like more information, you can check out our URL below. Thanks.